Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 256, all about anti-hustle hypocrisy. And I should be releasing this on a Sunday. I'm going to release it on the typical Tuesday. That's how we normally do it. But today is going to be a sermon. And so buckle up, prepare yourself. I've been thinking about this for a while. And even as I was reviewing my notes, I was getting fired up again. I am so fired up about this. So let's go. If I hear one more person say something about not hustling or not wanting to hustle or being anti-hustle, I am going to lose my shit because it's a lie. It is 100% a lie, and it doesn't actually look at the root cause or the reason why people say they don't want to hustle. So, and this is not just because my show is called Hustle and Flow. I mean, I guess I might be a little bit biased, but it's more than that. It is so much more than that. As an ambitious, high-achieving woman who is in the online business space, who is in the space of podcasts and books and things like that, it just pisses me off when I hear these women, these influencers, talking about how we don't need to be hustling because they are hustling. They are lying to you. And there is nothing wrong with hustling. That is not why you're feeling burnout. That is not why you are feeling unsatisfied. That is not why you feel overwhelmed. Hustle has nothing to do with it. So today we're going to break down why it's a lie, why it's hypocritical, and what the real issues are so that you can focus on that instead. My biggest issue with this anti-hustle culture is it is sending the wrong message to young people. It is sending the wrong message to people in their 20s and 30s who are early in their careers. And it is sending the wrong message to women who are in their 40s and 50s who are wanting to do something different but feel like it would be too much and they're tired of hustling. The people who are talking about how they no longer want to hustle, they're like, I hustled my whole life and now I'm not doing that. And I can show you how to do it too. Here's the problem with that. They're going to show you how to not hustle, but they're also telling you that you're going to be successful. And therein lies the bullshit. That is a lie. You do not become successful without hustling. And none of the people who are promoting anti-hustle culture got to where they are by not hustling. It is only natural that once you reach a certain level of success, once you have been hustling for so long and you have got things set up, that you are then going to be in a place where you can change things around, where you can have better boundaries, where you can have a lot more people helping you out. You've got more money to afford that. You've got a bigger team, whether that is in your business or your career or in your personal life. You have the luxury of being able to lean into all of these other things that make you feel whole and as if you were not hustling. Because at that point, in many ways, you are maintaining what you've already built, but you built that through hustle. And so what are we even talking about when you say I'm saying you as if it's you. I get you listening may not be promoting anti-hustle, but when I hear other people talk about you don't need to hustle, well, you did. You totally hustled to get to where you are. And so if you don't recognize that, if you don't acknowledge that, then you're being hypocritical because you're saying, don't do what I did to get where I am, do what I'm doing now. But you already are at the pinnacle or you're already so much further ahead, but you did not get there by just going with the flow all the time. No, let's not lie about that. I think of the trad wives, the trad wife movement. Okay, these bitches be lying too. Because they, especially if they're an influencer, this is how we know about trad wives, right? Like trad wives who are truly doing the trad wife thing, they're not talking about it. They're just doing it. And people who are truly into anti-hustle, they're not out there talking about it. They're just doing it. If you have a podcast, if you have social media, if you are in any kind of media, if you have a platform in any form or fashion, then you are a hustler. You are not a trad wife. You are a trad wife for the camera. You are an anti-hustler for the camera. If you have a script or you have thought about what you're going to say, or you have a ring light or a microphone, if you're making money, if you're trying to grow influence, if you're trying to sell something, then you're not, right? Like you're not a traditional wife. You might be showing that you're like baking these things and taking care of the kids and I love it. But yet that's not what you're doing, or you wouldn't have this social media. You wouldn't be putting that out there. And by the way, this also goes to the anti-hustle that you might like see on social media, TikTok, completely aside from the trad wives or even the like online business owners. So let's say we're just talking about the young TikTok dancers or things like that, or YouTube, right? And they're all anti-hustle. Oh, let's talk about the manifestation girlies, right? So super spiritual, and it's all about manifesting things. The amount of time and money and effort that they put in to thinking through those short clips that they're going to make is mind-boggling. And I know this because I know these women. I mean, I love many of these women. Some of them are friends and colleagues. And yet, as someone who sees what they're doing behind the scenes, as someone who I'm in groups with them, I'm in masterminds with them, there is a very popular, we'll call her a manifestation guru. She has like over 500,000 followers. She's doing very well. I know what she put into that business and what she still puts into that business and what she portrays to the world. And I'm not saying that it's fraud, but I'm also saying girl works her ass off. She is very strategic, and she is not just relying on the universe to show up. Like she is controlling it. Like she is not just in flow, sitting around, manifesting all the time. I'm not saying that manifesting principles can't be true. She is a hustler and she is working her ass off. And good for her. Like, good for her. But let's be honest about what it actually means to have the life and the popularity that she has. Manifesting is not the main way she does that. It's hustling. Like, that's how she got that. So when I think of like these TikTokers who say like, oh, I only work 4 hours a week, or I'm just drinking and taking photos and at the nail lounge, I'm telling you, I actually also worked with, I'm like trying to be really careful here with not naming names. I worked with someone, I know someone who has millions and millions of views, like makes most of their money just from social media clips that might be like a minute long. But they literally could spend an entire week and a lot of money on props and other things just prepping for that. And they might shoot it a million different ways, edit it a million different ways. And so it's like, oh, this is just easy and fun. And I do this. No, it's not. They are hustling. And again, like I'm supportive. I think it's awesome that they are doing what they love and that it's being monetized. But to say that people are just out here on the internet making money, not doing anything, y'all, that is a lie that is being sold to you. And if you are in let's say a 9 to 5 job, or maybe an 8 to 8 job, maybe you're a professional that works all the time and you're just like, I mean, how do people do that? And that must be nice. Just know that they're hustling too. They're simply saying that they're not hustling because that is a popular tagline right now. People are interested in it right now. Why are people interested in it? Probably because, especially for young people, inflation is wild. The economy is wild. I can't imagine trying to buy a home, coming out in my 20s. Like they talk about like what boomers were able to do. I'm like an elder millennial baby Gen Xer. And it's just radically different. They cannot do what we did. And we've got the Trump administration. Like things are just like everything is so heavy and so hard right now that of course people are like, I just want to rest. Like I want to make money without having to do a lot of work. And so people are feeding into that. And they are preying upon that. I mean, that's part of what this trad wife movement is too, right? It's like trying to offer people a better life by telling them that they don't have to work as hard to get things. And that is a lie. And I just think it's really important to not just listen to what people say, but really look behind what they're saying and ask, well, is that what they're going by, right? Like, are they walking their talk? And not just are they walking their talk right now, but look back in time. Could they be walking the talk right now had they not hustled their ass off beforehand? And the answer is no. Because again, if you're totally just like hanging out, just working a few hours a week, making all this money, then you have a really rich parent or grandparent where you were just like, you've got a trust fund and you don't have to work. You're just doing it for fun. But if you are popular, if you have a good brand, if you have a good platform, you're hustling. You are hustling. I don't believe that you're not. And I just think it's really, really important that not only do we acknowledge this, but we stop perpetrating it. So if you're like, oh, I've also talked about like anti-hustle culture, how do you not hustle? Just really check in with like why you're saying that. Is it because you've gotten to a place in your life where you no longer have to do that? If so, make sure you're talking to people who are at the same level and not sending the wrong message to people who are behind you. Also, if you're just doing it because it is trendy right now, let's stand in our values and our truth a little bit more. And as opposed to showing up the way people need or want us to, like, let's have some longevity and legacy with the way that we show up and the way we work and the words that we speak so that we can feel really good about ourselves, not only when we go to sleep now, but like at the end of our life. I just see so many people promoting lies, and I doubt that they recognize it's a lie, although some very well might and just don't think it's a big deal. But as someone who works with high achieving people and ambitious people, like let's be honest and let's uplevel our credibility and our honesty and transparency. I also think we just have to look at it in the context of feminism and the patriarchy. For a long time, ambition was a bad word. I don't think that's a bad word anymore. It used to be competition. It was collaboration over competition for a long time. Everybody was anti-competition, and I lost my shit and recorded an episode years ago about that. So if you want to go back and listen to that, it was episode 125. And now I think the new thing is anti-hustle. And these concepts are pushed upon women and often by women, and often by women who are ambitious and competitive and hustlers. And that's what confuses me, because I don't understand why we would try to exclude women or make women feel bad or tell them that they have to show up in a certain way in order to be acceptable as a woman. I am all for compassion. I am all for collaboration. I am all for flow and balance and peace. But when we start to promote all of those things as the ideal standard without acknowledging and recognizing the desire to be ambitious and to be competitive and to hustle for our dreams, then we're actually doing what has always been done for ages, which is telling women, not that way. You can do it, but not that way. That's too masculine. That's too patriarchal. And what if it's not masculine? What if it's not patriarchal? What if it is inherently in our being, because we're all masculine and feminine? And sometimes, and I do this as well, I think that we get so black and white on things and want to put things in categories that it's easy to say, this is bad. I had an experience with this where it was bad, so it's all bad. But it's not all bad. And being able to look at that nuance and to stop putting women down who are those things, right? Like Beyonce will tell you that a diva is just a female version of a hustler. And hustler, I'm like singing the song of a hustler, but she's a diva and she's proud to be a diva. I'm proud to be a diva. Taylor Swift, hustler. Dolly Parton, hustler. Beyonce, hustler. Oprah Winfrey, hustler. Like, I'm just going through all of these women that we look up to. I guarantee your mentor, whoever your mentor is, female mentor, she is a hustler. Otherwise, you wouldn't know her name. She would not be as successful as she is. And there's nothing wrong with that. I also bet that they're competitive. So part of that whole, not to go back to that, but it's like sports, right? Women can be competitive and women can be collaborative. Women can be hustlers and we can be deeply committed to flow and peace and balance. Let's just stop telling women that they shouldn't do certain things that is not popular or somehow makes us feel like we're doing it wrong. Maybe I'm just saying that for myself. I'm pretty good at like letting things roll off. Like, I can brush it off my shoulder far better than I used to, but others I feel like can't. And I feel like they're actually not embracing or maybe feel embarrassed or ashamed about some of these traits because they think it's bad. And I'm just here to tell you it's not bad. It's totally cool to hustle. I hope you're hustling. That's how you're going to become successful in whatever it is you're doing. Okay. The other thing I want to mention before I actually get into what's really at play and how we can actually avoid the burnout, the overwhelm, the things that go with what we perceive as a hustle problem, but it's not a hustle problem. The topic I want to discuss is the privilege. So also going back to former episodes, episode 74, I talked about the work-life balance myth. And it really is, I really shouldn't have called it a myth because it should have been titled work-life balance privilege. And I feel like the anti-hustle crowd, like this is the same damn concept. So when we talk about not having to hustle, you've got money. You've got money. People who are in situations where they cannot feed their family, where they are paycheck to paycheck, they have no option but to hustle, right? I mean, it is such a privileged conversation. And it doesn't mean that in the same way that it doesn't mean we shouldn't be pursuing work-life balance and we shouldn't be pursuing peace and satisfaction and joy and flow. We should be doing all of those things, but we also need to be aware of and recognize that those conversations are privileged conversations. And so if you're listening to the podcast and you have been hustling and you have achieved wealth, which allows you to not hustle as much, just be aware of that, because tell that to the single mother who doesn't have a car and is working 2 to 3 jobs, and maybe she does not have white skin. Maybe she has brown skin and she's got ice on her ass all the time, right? Like, and she may fully be here legally. I mean, they're totally racially profiling here in Nashville, and I'm sure they're doing it everywhere else. And it's just, they would never have the privilege to even be able to have a conversation of like, I don't want to hustle. I'm not going to hustle. So anytime we talk about work-life balance, anytime we talk about anti-hustle or any of these things, let's just remember the privilege that we have and not overlook the fact that there is a huge part of the population on this earth who never could be a part of the conversation that we are having. So I just feel like sometimes we forget that nuance, and it just comes across as really elitist and annoying. Okay. So what is the problem? Why are we actually talking about anti-hustle, and what's the real issue that we can address? Okay. The real issue is when we are not aligned. So I have definitely had times in my life where I was working my ass off and I was really unhappy. And that was both when I was an employee and in my business. And you can probably relate to that as well. But when I was in those situations where I was totally just burnt out and frustrated, it was not the amount of work. It's that I was no longer aligned with the vision, and I wasn't listening to what I needed and wanted. And so instead of getting to the root of the problem, instead of making hard decisions and doing things differently, I stayed on the train and just kept trying to force, hoping that things would improve. I got so just right, like on that hamster wheel, that I lost sight of what I was doing and why. So a lot of times when we're working for other people, especially when we're coming up, when we think about perfectionism and people pleasing and validation and just the culture of wanting approval, whether that is from your boss or your clients, there can be a tendency to lose yourself in the process. And when we lose ourself in the process, when we are no longer aligned with what it is that we are doing and why, that is when we can feel disenfranchised. That is when we can have a mental breakdown. That is when we can feel overwhelmed and anxious and stressed and depressed. And we say that it's hustling. We say that maybe even it's workaholism, but it's probably neither of those things. And one of the reasons I know that is in my own experience, my husband will tell anyone that I work more in my business now than I ever did as a lawyer. And as he says, and she worked all the time as a lawyer. The difference is, and again, I've done this in my business because it's natural for humans to just, especially high achievers, to get in the groove and go. And sometimes we go too far. I mean, the good news is that once you start really paying attention to this stuff, you will eventually catch it and you can course correct. But when you love what you're doing, when you are aligned with what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like play. I often wake up every single morning and say, like, that's my first thought is like, what's on my plate today? Like, what am I doing today? And I'm like, best day ever. Best day of my life. Like, this is like, bring it. I'm so excited. This is so fun. Let's do it. That doesn't mean that like the work, there can't be some drudgery to it. It doesn't mean that some things can't feel hard, but it lights me up. And when the work that you're doing lights you up, you're not going to get burnt out. You're not going to get frustrated. You're not going to be stressed and anxious. Now, there may be other things that make you stressed and anxious, but it's not going to be the hustle. So I think we call it anti-hustle, but the truth is it's just about making sure that you are putting forth the time, energy, effort, and work for things that matter most to you. And sometimes you know what that is, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you got to start doing it and before you realize, oh, this isn't it. And that doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It just means you had to find out that that wasn't it. You thought it was, but that wasn't it. And you just keep making those adjustments. And it is in that pursuit that you find the balance, you find the flow, you know more about yourself. You are committed to understanding what brings you joy. And I definitely have things outside of work that bring me joy, but like straight up, work brings me the most joy. It does. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And I'm not going to hustle less because people think that that is a bad thing. If you have a dream, if you have a desire, if you have a goal, hustle your heart out to go get it, to make it happen. I mean, you can totally be in a 9-to-5 job, not hustling, and be fucking miserable. Hustle is not the problem. Hustle is not the problem. So, all this anti-hustle hypocrisy, I'm done. I'm over it, and I hope you are too. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.